Mr. Secretary, thank you for being here. It's my understanding that the President is going to invite Mr. Putin to the United States to follow up on the understandings reached in Helsinki. Can you just briefly tell me what those understandings or agreements reached in Helsinki at the meeting?
Sure. I can certainly share with you the things that we've been tasked to follow up on by President Trump following that meeting. There's a handful. So there is an agreement to establish some business-to-business leadership exchanges. This historically had been undertaken but had fallen away. These would be business leaders that would participate in this. I understand that this went on for years and years and was ceased a handful of years ago.
If we could do it briefly. I understand you want to give a complete thing, and I appreciate that. But
it's what you asked for.
I understand it. Business to business. Next issue?
The President is asked us to look at reestablishing a counterterrorism council that was held at the level of the Deputy Secretary of State for many years, but had also ceased to happen. I think at this point, I think that makes sense.
Counterterrorism cooperation.
Counterterrorism. We are working to see in Syria what are the possibilities that can be achieved so that the now between 6 and 7 million externally displaced persons have the opportunity to return. We made clear this should happen through the political process in Geneva, but we are working to see if we can't get Russia to be more cooperative in terms of driving towards a political resolution there that would take down the violence levels and create some opportunity to begin a political resolution of the process in Syria.
Any discussions on sanctions? You said there was no easing of the sanctions?
No, Senator, no easing of the sanctions.
No,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Was there any discussion about Magnitsky? Because certain names associated with Magnitsky came out in Helsinki. Was there any discussion with the President on the Magnitsky sanctions?
No, there's been no change in U.S. policy with respect to Magnitsky. I think I know what you're referring to. Let me make clear. The United States will defend our team in the field and the team that's been in the field when it retires and leaves the field. We understand that Americans deserve the protection of the United States of America both during their time in service and thereafter.
Was there any agreements reached in regards to Ukraine?
No, Senator, that's an agree to disagree. Mm-hmm. That is, the U.S. policy hasn't changed, and you can see that, right?
And I understand.
$200 million since the Helsinki summit provided to the Ukrainians. I think there was lots of concern that, and I saw it, I could find you all's quotes if you'd like me to go drag them out, concerns that President Trump would make a change in position with respect to Ukraine.
And you made that clear.
And there is none, and it is a policy that the previous administration refused to undertake. And so I hear comparative. It's important, Senator. Comparison matters here because there's a narrative that is developed that somehow President Trump is weak on Russia, and when in fact the converse is true.
I heard you talk and brag about the number of sanctions.
Senator, these were just facts.
The facts is that the Congress passed the CATSA statute that required sanctions to be imposed. And there are sanctions that are to be imposed under CATSA that have not been imposed. And the facts are the administration sought a waiver in regards to CATSA in regards to the National Defense Authorization Act. So I just really want to point out, and we've had this from previous administrations, but not as much as we're hearing today, that what Congress is requiring you to do, all of a sudden you found religion and taking credit for it.
Senator,
but in reality, you haven't implemented on time the sanctions that have been passed by Congress.
Senator, first of all, that's not true. We've passed a number of sanctions under the CATSA provisions, and it is also true, at least my best recollection of the Constitution, is the President signed that law as well. So I thank you for presenting that law. We appreciate it. We think it makes good sense. The President signed it as well. We have passed sanctions under that very law, and we have passed sanctions that Senator, you just have to know previous administrations didn't do.
Please read the President's comment when he signed the law, because it's very interesting, his comments. Let me move on to our policy in regards to nuclear proliferation in Iran and in North Korea, because I'm having a hard time understanding the comparison between these two countries. In North Korea, we have a country that has a nuclear weapon. The President has met with the leader of that country and has at least given a signal to some countries that, in fact, there may be relaxation of those. We're having problems with China today, as I understand. In Iran, we had a commitment for a short-term ending of their nuclear program. We were able to isolate Iran, getting the support of China, Russia, and Europe. And we were able to keep the temperature down in regards to their nuclear program. Now, by pulling out, we are now seeing we don't have any commitments on the short term if Iran walks away from the agreement, because they're already sanctioned now under the United States. We've been isolated, not Iran. And, of course, Iran today was not pursuing a nuclear program. I agree with you, there may be long-term issues. So I'm going to have a hard time understanding our strategy in regards to preventing nuclear proliferation. Last point I would make. We had a hearing in this committee as to what is necessary to move forward with North Korea on giving up nuclear weapons. And the first thing they talked about, you have to have a full declaration of its nuclear arsenal and a timeline for dismantling. And I'm getting my information now from the South Koreans, not from the Americans. The South Koreans have been reported to say that you asked for that information and you have not been able to get that information from Kim Jong-un or his representatives. So what have we gotten in North Korea, and why are we allowing North Korea to continue to have a nuclear weapon when the strategy is that as long as Iran is doing any types of enrichment, we're going to impose sanctions against them?
Senator, let me try. That was a long question. Let me try and unpack it a little bit. So let me give you the common theme. We want neither Iran nor North Korea to have the capacity to proliferate nuclear weapons, to enrich uranium, or build their own weapons program. That's the mission set. It draws them together. That sets the conditions for President Trump's understanding of how one achieves non-proliferation in the world. And that's the mission state we're undertaking in each of those two countries. They are in different places, and we are working on an approach in each place that we think increases the likelihood that we're able to successfully achieve that. A mission I know you share.
Yeah. Before turning to Senator Rubio's second interjection, I know mention was made of a waiver in the NDAA by Secretary Mattis.
Yes,
actually, yeah, he wouldn't want to be demoted to that level, I know. But I support that, and the purpose of that waiver was to allow countries that we're dealing with that we wish to buy American military equipment to be weaned off Russian equipment. They still had to buy parts to do so that we can more fully implement strategies with them, working with them to really push back against other countries. Is that correct?
Senator Cork, you captured it very well. It's Secretary Mattis and I both put forward this proposal, request to the Senate for these waivers. These are countries that have historic Russian weapon systems. If we deny them the capacity to have spare parts or to round out that process, then we're likely to drive them into the hands of the Russians. I don't think that was the aim of the sanctions themselves, and so we're working to effectuate the intent of the statute by seeking this waiver. It's pretty narrow.
Would the chairman yield so I can clarify that?
Rubio may yield, but go ahead. Go ahead.
My point is that this is an issue we talked about in the development of the CATSA bill. There is absolutely no debate in this committee on the waiver request by the administration. I disagree with my distinguished chairman as to whether it was handled right. The country's had over a year to resolve that.
Yeah, it had become an acute issue, and it is a defense-related issue, and I'm glad that we've been able to resolve it in a manner that will allow these countries to wean off Russian equipment and begin buying ours. Senator Rubio.
Thank you.